coming to data. What's going on? Woo!
Enterprise, this is Dot Control. You are cleared for departure.
Captain on the bridge.
Mr. Spock?
Captain.
Mr. Scott?
We're ready, sir. Phase 1 test showed us he's exceeded all design expectations.
Then let's begin Phase 2.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an all-new Some Kind of Radio show here on Blog Talk Radio. Call in live now at 347-989-8810. And here's our host, the one, the only, Diggy Earl McCune.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode here on blogtalkradio.com of Some Kind of Radio Show. Well, it's funny, yeah. My intro there, the big E. Well, the real big E. You know, we'll be talking about the Enterprise in Star Trek Phase 2, and my special guest at this time, Mr. Charles Root Jr., who plays Scotty. Charles, how you doing tonight?
Not too bad, Earl. Thanks very much for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on. I'm a huge fan of what you guys do. You guys are basically the granddaddy of them all as far as Star Trek fan films. Tell me...
Some days I feel like a granddaddy when I'm doing it.
Yeah, I bet. Tell us a little. I mean, let's just start simple. Tell us about you, Charles. I mean, tell us what you do and how you got involved in Star Trek Phase 2.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. Well, I live in the great state of Vermont with my wife and my lovely cat, and I got involved with Phase 2, probably about 10 years ago now. We must be going on 10 years at least. The time begins to blur a little bit, and so how I got involved with it was, I've always been involved in computers, and that's what I do for a living. I'm the director of technology for an intellectual property corporation in Vermont called IP Capital Group, and my love of computers and stuff is always kind of derived from my love of science fiction and Star Trek and that kind of thing. So I started following New Voyages when it popped up on the internet, and there were some stories going about it, and I was like, well, this is really cool. I can't wait to see the first episode that's going to happen on this. Then one night I'm watching the local news here, and I see a story comes up and says, the Enterprise comes to the North Country. And I'm like, well, what's this, right? And they do an interview with James Cawley in regards to Star Trek New Voyages. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's that show I can't wait to watch. And it's literally an hour and a half away from where I live. I thought they were going to be doing this thing in L.A. or someplace that's far away, big city, only to find out that it's in a town that's about an hour and a half away from me. I said, I got to be involved with this. So I sent James an email, get a hold of him, said, I'm willing to do anything, sweep the floors, whatever you need. I'd be happy to take and do this. And they had been well into production of their first episode when I had given them a call. And James had said, you seem familiar to me. And I'm like, yeah, you seem familiar to me too. And it turns out I'd actually met James about 10 years before that at a local science fiction convention type of thing that was held at a mall in Vermont. And James had brought some Star Trek props, and we all had acted with Mark Leonard at the time. We ended up winning the contest there for acting in Star Trek. They exchanged numbers and never heard from each other again until that day. I got a hold of him from seeing the news cast there. So at the time, Jack Marshall was playing Scotty, and he had decided that he didn't really want to act and direct at the same time. So they, looked for a new Scotty, and he had approached me because I was doing some PA work with New Voyages at the time, and said, "You kind of got the look. Would you be interested in doing them? And can you do a Scottish, accent?" And I said, "I can do my best on doing the Scottish accent." And and from from reviews, either I do it really well or I do it so bad that people have to cover their ears when they hear it. But so from that point on, I told them, I had done some acting in college, and they said, "Well, give it a shot." They liked it. I was in, and from that point on, I have played Scotty up to this day.
I'll tell you what, I've tried to do that Scottish accent. I know I can't do it. Just for the people listening, can you do a little sample of Scotty?
Well, let me tell you something, Lottie. I don't normally talk like this unless I'm on film, all right? But for you, I'm going to make a special case tonight, okay?
Okay. Sounds good, man. Sounds good. I'll give it a solid 8. I mean, it's better than a lot of people can do. It's not an easy accent to try to handle. I mean, that's for sure.
As for even Jimmy Doohan wasn't even doing a real Scottish accent. And
no, not at all.
If you listen to people from Scotland, they sound entirely different than, the way James Doohan did it, the way I do it, the way Chris Doohan does it, the way Simon Pegg does it. None of those people sound anything like, what someone from, say, Edinburgh sounds like.
Right. I mean, that is true. I got a lady that lives down the street, and she's from, she calls the old country, and she's from over there, and her accent is so, how do I put it, robust. That's why you can stand there and talk, all you can do is smile, because you cannot understand her. I mean, it's like, okay, have a great day. That's about all you can do.
English, right? Yeah. I hear you. So Phase 2 has been great. We switched from being New Voyages to Phase 2 a few years ago, changed the name up to kind of push the show into that time period of past the original 5-year mission there. And it's going pretty good with the production. We've got some exciting things coming along the lines where we're moving the studio to a new location, a much bigger, more modern facility from where we've been shooting in the past, where we'll be able to have all the sets set up completely, whereas in the old place we didn't have room for the full corridor, and we only had room for like one swing set. In the new location, where we're increasing our space by almost 50% beyond what we have now, we'll be able to have space for all of the sets that are that we have now, and including some new sets as well. We may be looking at being able to put up the engineering section that you saw that was originally going to be looked at for Phase 2, the 1970s show there that they had thought about doing before they moved to the motion picture. So we've got, it's a much greater, there's a lot more, support facilities around, like restaurants and hotels and that kind of thing. So we're very, very excited about moving to our new location. And with it, we hope to have, more episodes come out more frequently. And in regards to that, it always comes down to people's time and the money that they can put into this, and the amount of effort that's on the post side as well. That's one of the tough things is you get everybody there, but then there's a lot of stuff that has to be done in the end, special effects, sound editing, color correction, all that kind of stuff, everything that goes into making a production film. And when nobody's getting paid for it and it's all volunteer, other life events come involved, right? People kind of get a paying gig and they have to back burn their hobby stuff for a while, and it's understandable.
No doubt. I mean, like this is really a hobby. I mean, obviously this is a online deal. I mean, where no one's getting paid for this show. I mean, I did this show originally last year for a while, and then back in '06, I did with a buddy of mine. We did a comedy show, but we did that around our work. We had real life come up, and we had so much planned, and we just stopped doing it because he moved away, and but it was so much fun to do. I mean, I loved being in front of the camera, and it was great times. I mean, some of the best friendships that I've made to this day were when we did our show back in '06, which was called Some Kind of Bowling Show, and we had some of my best friends to this day, just from doing that. We did it for a year. I mean, I'm sure I could tell by watching, what you guys do on Phase 2. I'm sure you got, the camaraderie and the chemistry between the actors, it's stuck around. I mean, you can see that you guys have got a natural chemistry.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And in fact, that's one of the main things I talk to people about when they come on to Phase 2 is, as I say, you're going to take and end up spending a lot of your own money, for lodging and food and that kind of stuff to be here for a week or two to enjoy the aspects of making a movie. But what the thing is
right.
that you really need to extract out of this is the friendships and the connections that you make. All right, and you can benefit and profit immensely from those connections that you make. All right, be it the fact that you make a friend for the rest of your life, and I have many of those that have come directly from working on Phase 2, or friends that turn into doing something different, right? You get together with a bunch of talented people, and those people may very well want to do something that's not Star Trek, but have talents to do something, and that's kind of like something that originated from Phase 2 that I'm also doing through a company called Dragon Phoenix Media. And
yeah.
I met a couple of guys, one Bill Lutz and Glenn Smith. They both really, really into comic books, and one day talking to them on the sets, and I said, I always had an idea for a comic book, a story that I wanted to do, or a graphic novel or something. I never really developed it. And they said, well, tell us about it. And I said, well, it's this idea about, Mars and Earth, and they're fighting. It's 200 years in the future, and they, find some alien technology, and that alien technology just, kind of explodes the whole war to now they're fighting for this kind of stuff. And so, well, that's a pretty interesting idea. Why don't you flesh it out and send it over to us? So I did, and I sent it over, and they loved it. And said, you know what? Let's do this, right? Let's take and have you come on board and do this comic book, and we're going to have one of the artists. Bill Lutz is an artist, but we also have another artist, Rob Barnes, who lives in New Zealand, and we'll start talking concept art, that kind of stuff. So over the last year, the company's grown, and we have, 5 comic book lines that are coming out, including mine, Mars versus Earth. But we've got one called The Realm, which is, kind of like a sword sorcery type of show, comic book, and we have Pathways and Frontiersman, which is your superhero comic books, really, really cool. And in fact, Bill Lutz likes to take real world models and turn them into characters, and I'm getting to be a comic book character as well as writing a comic book. So whenever you see World Smasher and Pathways, that's yours truly. We also have another one called I, Human that Glenn Smith is writing, and that's a comic book that's set in the future with robots, and it's very, very cool. It's got a kind of a AI type of feel to it. It's very, very, very interesting. So we're really excited about that. All these first issues, we're hoping they'll be out in June for everybody to download and get. And that's you can check it out at dragonphoenixmedia.com. But that's one of the things that kind of came from this, right? If you're gonna when you get together with a bunch of people, it's like, hey, let's do something different. And you do something different, and you prosper from it. I mean, how can you not look back on something like Phase 2 and go, if that's the only thing I get out of this, it's a massive win. All right,
Absolutely.
If you are like, wow, you know what, I didn't take any other advantage other than getting a friend. What can you say? That in life, how often you get new friends, right?
Right, absolutely. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to, before I go any further, let's give out the number one more time here. Still waiting for some calls to come in. If you want to talk to Charles Root, call-in phone number is 347-989-8810, 347-989-8810. You can call in and ask Phase 2 Scotty anything you pretty much want. within reason, of course.
Yeah. Boxes are brief.
Don't ask them to loan you any money.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I have none to give to anybody. So, yeah.
If anything, he will be accepting donations, and I
right.
had to laugh. I was watching the your one YouTube video you did asking for donations, asking for cash, and you couldn't have said it any better than that.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
No, yeah, cash. I love that. Okay, moving on. Let's get into another subject. Every time I'm on Facebook and I kind of flip through the thing, I always see you got a picture of you in a bottle of beer or a nice glass of beer. Obviously, you have an affinity for craft beers, and it's an affinity of my own. I love craft beers. For me, I'll tell you about me real quick.
Yep.
I used to be strictly a Budweiser, Bud Light guy, okay?
Yeah.
Then about 3 years ago, I moved down to Alabama. And my cousin-in-law, big into craft beers, he goes, "Don't drink that garbage, drink this."
Right.
He gave me a beer down there called Sweetwater 420 IPA, nice name for it. Yeah, I drank it. I'm like, this stuff's great, And
wow.
I went to, and then I went to, then I went to a thing called the Rocket City Brew Fest. And, I mean, there's, all these little, you get your little sample shot glass and everything. And, well, here's the best part of my story. I didn't have to pay to get in. He works as a distributor. So I got in. He gave me the brewer's pass. I'm like, oh, great. I'm going to be in trouble. My wife's going to kill me. I went through and I started just drinking. I mean, I'm testing about every type of beer. And next thing you know, I'm in love with the stuff. Okay,
right.
You're the guest. Tell us about how you got into the craft beer thing and what you like to do.
Absolutely, sure. Well, first, I didn't even start drinking alcohol until I was like 23. All right, I didn't touch the stuff, wasn't interested in it, and then I was going through a rough patch in my young life. Right, when you look back on things, it's like, that was that. If only my biggest problems could have been that. But anyway, so my buddy's like, come on out tonight, come on, have a drink, and I'm like, all right, finally, I'll take a drink, whatever, right? So it was a vodka Collins at the time, wasn't even beer, and I was like, wow, this is pretty good, right? So I started moving into, all right, well, maybe I'll try a beer, and this was at the same time I was in college, and there was a place in Vermont called the Last Chance Saloon, and every Friday and Saturday night, an Irish band used to play there called Bootless and Unhorsed, and they played Irish pub songs, and it was rowdy as hell. And in fact, their music's on Amazon. If you ever just look up Bootless and Unhorsed on Amazon, you can download their music. It's rowdy, vulgar Irish pub songs. And so you're down there, and they're just slinging booze all night long, and my friends are just like, hey, you try this beer, right? And in Vermont, we have been blessed with a plethora of micro craft breweries. It's kind of one of the places where craft brewing kind of got its start here on the East Coast.
Right.
Yeah. And with like Magic Hat, was like one of the big ones. Of course, they're now a huge brewer, but they started off very small, kind of a local thing. And they made a brew called Magic Hat No. 9, which is beer made with apricots, and that's kind of what got me hooked into it. I never started off on like Budweiser's or anything like that. I mean, I have a default brew that I'll go to where I'll go like, this is the minimum I will drink, and that's Labatt's Blue. All right, but no, you won't find it in my refrigerator by any stretch of the imagination. What you'll find in there are microbrews from around Vermont generally. Kind of like, your trout rivers, your harpoons, your Lawson's liquids, that kind of stuff. Fiddlehead. We have tons of phenomenal brews that way. But I'm not a beer snob either, all right? There's a couple of, of the big boys, and I know this is Anheuser-Busch and Coors, but I'll tell you, Shock Top and Blue Moon both put out some, seasonal brews that are certainly, like B+, A- in my book when I look at these, and even if you look at on Beer Advocate, you take a look at these, and they're getting some pretty decent scores, right? So I think in general, even the big boys are looking at, hey, we can't continue. I mean, there's always going to be people who want PBR, and that's fine. Go ahead. If that's what makes you happy, put that to your list, all right? But they're looking at, where the money is people want quality brew, okay, that has
Absolutely.
some sort of flavor into it that doesn't taste like carbonated water.
Exactly. That's like with me. Like I said, with myself, I used to drink a lot of the Bud Light. And, that's all I drank. And, now I go to try, like the other day, a couple of weeks ago, I was at my buddy's house, and all he drinks is Bud Light. And I drank all my, I went and got some Stone IPA, okay? And I drank 6 of those, and I was feeling, I was about 3 sheets,
Yeah.
I was like, well, you know what? The wives are out. We're still drinking. I started drinking this Bud Light. I'm like, it tastes like water,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this is horrible. This is horrible. Who can drink this stuff? But, to each their own. I mean, you and I are, obviously, we're talking about palates of taste. It's amazing how big craft beer is now. It really is.
Oh,
I mean, it's like, I was amazed from when I left Ohio a few years ago and came back to Ohio. There's a store down by my house here. Now they got a whole section dedicated to craft beer, and I don't know if they do it up there, but you can pick your 6, and you mix and match your 6 here, and I'm like, wow, this is the best thing that could ever happen. This is awesome, and it's great. I mean, I'm glad, as a beer, I wouldn't call myself a professional by any means, but it's, I want quality, I want quality over quantity, back in the end when I was younger, quantity. No, I want quality.
Quality, right, exactly. I, like I said, I was fortunate to start off on quality, so I never really I went with quantity sometimes, right? But I was drinking quality beer, right? So,
it is possible to do both.
Right, exactly. You can't sit there and listen to a 4-piece Irish band play Dirty Old Town, all right, and not drink 2 beers to it. You just can't, all right? It's a mandatory minimum, right? But
right.
Yeah. So but no, I agree. I like sitting down and enjoying something that's good, and even being in quality brews and looking at microbrews and craft brews, that kind of branched out. There's a brew pub up here in Vermont called Zero Gravity. They make a gruit, which is kind of like beer, but it's kind of like wine as well. And they only make it on the solstices, so it's there for like a week. But it is absolutely stunningly delicious, and I would highly recommend, if there's anybody around that's listening, if you can find somebody who makes a gruit because you want it fresh, try it. You'll like it. It's very good stuff.
Awesome. Now I don't know. Now I've gotten into home brewing. Okay, I started doing the Mr. Beer not long ago, and I made this batch. I got the starter batch and everything. This stuff was horrible, because it was a light beer, But so I gave it out to all my friends. They love it, like, oh, this stuff's actually not bad, But I don't know. Have you gotten to that yourself? Have you tried doing any home brewing yourself, or?
Yeah. Well, there used to be a place here, just about a half hour away, that was a space where you could go and home brew. They had all the equipment there. They had steam kettles to brew. They had dozens of different hops, barleys, malts, books and books of recipes. So you basically brew it there on site. They put it in, special, carboys for aging. Stick it back there. You'd come back in 2 weeks, use their CO2 bottling system, and you'd walk out for $120 with 10 cases of bombers, right? So, or 22-ounce bottles.
Right. Yeah.
And that was phenomenal. And I did that 3 or 4 times, which was great. And you had tons of good homebrew, and it's a good way to learn about it. And in the interim, I haven't done it at home. Sitting there, putting a big kettle up there, and steeping the mash and all that other stuff. But that said, there's a small. I own a piece of the property I own on. I've always wanted to subdivide it, sell it off. But the town is kind of like, we don't know if we want to change the zoning laws or whatever. But that piece of property, I can put something on it. All right. And I've been thinking maybe a craft brewery, a microbrew down on the end of that corner of property might actually be something I might get into, and something I begin to explore a little bit, being that, maybe I'll turn that into a productive income-making opportunity down there, and we'll see. Maybe in a couple of years I'll be heavily into the home brewing type of situation.
Yeah, too bad you couldn't use the name Root Beer,
Yeah, exactly. Right. Root beer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Son, what are you drinking? Did you get my 8-year-old?
Have a root beer.
Right. Have a root beer. Right, exactly, yeah. I'm sure
Yeah.
sure Liquor Control would have a problem with that name.
Oh, they love you, you know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, we got about 6 minutes left in the program. Again, if anyone wants to try to call in here, 347-989-8810. We're talking with Charles Root Scotty from Star Trek Phase 2. Going back into that, there's a lot of new stuff coming up. I know you guys had a delay with the Holiest Thing coming out. Any updates you can give on that?
Yeah. Let me tell you where we are on that. And there's nothing nefarious going on. Everybody's kind of like, where's the damn episode, right? And you're like,
right, yeah.
So here's what happened with the Holiest Thing. We ran it one night, and the writer had shown it at a local movie theater, and when you saw it up on this big screen, there were some issues. All right, we had filmed part of it in a gym, and it sounded like it was in a gym, and there was some color correction that when one scene switched to the other, it looked like you had put it on a different TV, right? So those things had to be corrected. Now with that, so here's what you need. You need somebody who can do color correction. You need somebody who can do sound editing, and it need to be people that know what they're doing. They have to be in the business. It can't be like, hey, well, my brother's done, Garage Band on his Mac once, right? And he's willing to take a whack at it. Well, any of us idiots can do that, all right? It's like we need someone who actually knows what they're doing. And it's just tough right now. Anybody, again, who, has the time and interest. That's the other thing, too, right? It's like, hey, do you want to work on this, Star Trek fan film for free that you'll get no money for doing it, but, you get a good on you, all right? And people are like, no, all right? I don't like Star Trek. I don't like science fiction, right? I've got my own things that I'm doing, and so it's a really small pool of people that you can draw on. And as you know, the fan fiction, fan film genre has kind of exploded now. All right, there's 5 or 6 other films out there, so that pool is being drawn upon, and that's kind of where we sit right now. So let me tell you, if there's any people who do color correction or sound editing and are professionals at it, and they're interested in helping out Phase 2, please go to our website and contact us. We'll be happy to at least hear what you can do for us. That's for sure.
And as a fan, it's like, I'd love to see it, but it's just like Katoomba was so worth the wait. It really was.
Yeah.
I mean, watching that, I was like, wow, I was so blown away with just the quality of the episode and just, everything. I was blown away. I mean, fans, I'm a fan myself. Be patient. Come on. They're going to, it's coming, and you know what? And I know as far as, I know James Cawley's got his standards for it, and,
exactly.
It's right. It's going to be right.
Exactly.
So everybody,
That's the thing. Could we release it right now? Absolutely. It's done. It could be released right now, and you could watch it, all right? But then you're going to get a ton of people who are going to be disappointed with the sound. They're going to be kind of disappointed with the, switching, the colors looking a little different and stuff. And, there's a small blick in one of the special effects, right? It's kind of like, do you want to watch it like that? You can, all right? But it's not going to be the experience that you're expecting. All right, and certainly not the experience that you've gotten with the other, 9 or so films that we released. So,
absolutely,
patience is a virtue on this.
Right, and with most Trek fans, you're not pleasing everybody. Somebody's going to complain about something. You got the best sound, best quality, and they're going to find something. The acting's horrible. You know what? The way I see it, you guys capture the spirit of the whole thing, and that's what it's meant to be. It's for the fans, because obviously Paramount's not putting out something quality right now, in my opinion, and and what you guys do, it's fantastic.
Well, thank you
very much. All right, well, let's wrap this up here. Charles, you want to give, could you give the websites for everybody here for Phase 2 and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So here, if you're looking to find things on the web that pertaining to what I'm doing and Phase 2 and everything like that, you can go to www.StarTrekNewVoyages.com, or you can go to www.DragonPhoenixMedia.com, or you can go to www.charlesroot.com. All right? And heck, if you need any intellectual property help, you can go to www.ipcg.com. All right? Those are the websites in my life. You know, it's kind of like when you're young, right? You got the girls in your life. When you get to my age, you got the websites in your life.
Yes, I understand that completely. Well, Charles, hey, man, thank you so much for coming on. This was a great time to chat with you and get to know you a little bit and talk about Phase 2 and beer and everything else. It was great having you on. Thank you again so much for coming on.
Had a great time. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And, please come on again. I mean, we'd love to have you on again. And if you want to pass on the word to anybody, if they want to come on, tell them to come on.
Right.
We'll talk to them.
I'll do that. Very good. Thanks a lot, Earl.
No problem. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week on some kind of radio show here on blogtalkradio.com. Next week, Saturday, 6 p.m., we're going to talk about, well, whatever. So everybody have a good night.
You have been listening to Some Kind of Radio Show with our host, Big E. Earl McCune. Tune in next week, same time, same place for another fun-filled episode. Have a great night, and catch you on the flip side.